I paid for the wedding the way I'd paid for most things in our family, quietly, without ceremony, with the understanding that it was easier to comply than to argue. The venue deposit, the catering advance, the florist rush fee. My brother called it temporary, said he'd settle up after the honeymoon. My parents nodded, relieved, as if I'd restored balance rather than assumed another burden. The morning after the reception, I sat at the small desk in my apartment, still smelling faintly of lilies and spilled champagne, and checked my bank account. At first I thought the app hadn't refreshed. I closed it and reopened it. The number didn't change. $8,400 was gone, not pending. Gone. I didn't panic. That surprised me. I checked statements, then the activity log, then the email I'd received 2 days earlier warning me about an unfamiliar device accessing my account. I remembered ignoring it, assuming it was a false alarm. I called the bank. The representative's voice softened as she explained the timeline, the IP address, the withdrawal pattern. It had been done cleanly, confidently, by someone who knew what they were doing, or thought they did. I drove to my parents' house that afternoon, the sun too bright for how hollow I felt. They were still riding the afterglow of the wedding. My brother lounged on the couch in sweatpants, a gift bag at his feet. My mother was laughing about the DJ. I waited for a pause and said evenly, that money had been taken from my account. My mother didn't ask how, she laughed. You can't do anything, she said, waving her hand as if I'd mentioned a parking ticket. Family sorts these things out. I looked at my brother. He stared at his phone. $8,400, I repeated. I need it back. He shrugged. You offered to help. I didn't offer this. My mother leaned back, her smile thinning. Don't be dramatic. You'll get it eventually. The room felt smaller. The laughter that followed wasn't loud, but it landed hard. Something in me steadied. My hands were trembling, but my voice wasn't. Don't worry about what happens next, I said, and reached into my bag. I didn't pull out anything dramatic. No envelope slammed on the table. Just my phone and a slim folder. Receipts, screenshots, the bank's reference number. I set them down and stood up. My brother snorted. What? You're gonna call a lawyer? I didn't answer. I walked to the door. Behind me, the laughter continued, until it didn't. The knock was loud enough to rattle the picture frames. Not a polite rap, a firm, professional sound that demanded attention. My mother's face changed first. She stood, smoothing her shirt, still smiling as she opened the door. 2 people stepped inside, badges visible, posture unmistakable. A police officer and a financial crimes investigator from the bank. Calm, direct, uninterested in family dynamics. We're here regarding a reported unauthorized transfer, the investigator said, already taking in the room. May we speak with everyone present? The silence that followed was complete. My brother's phone slipped from his hand and hit the carpet with a dull thud. They asked questions. Names. Dates. Who had access to what? My mother tried to answer for my brother and was gently interrupted. The officer asked my brother to sit up, to look at him when he spoke, to explain the unfamiliar device and the timing that matched the honeymoon suite's Wi-Fi. No one laughed. I stood near the doorway, listening, my heartbeat finally slowing. The process was ordinary. That was the strangest part. There was no shouting, no grand reveal. Just procedure. Notes taken. Statements recorded. The investigator explained next steps, potential outcomes, timelines. The words were neutral. Consequences were implied, not threatened. When they left, the house felt emptied out. My mother rounded on me, her voice shaking now. How could you do this to your own family? I didn't, I said. I reported a theft. My brother didn't look at me. He stared at the wall, jaw tight, as if the plaster had betrayed him. The weeks that followed were quiet in a way I hadn't experienced before. The bank reversed part of the transfer after verification. The rest was tied up, pending. My parents called less. When they did, they spoke carefully, as if each word were being weighed. My brother texted once, angry, then apologetic, then angry again. I didn't respond. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. There were moments I missed the old ease, the way compliance smoothed everything over. But there was relief, too, in knowing the boundary had been drawn by something larger than me, by rules that didn't care who loved whom. At work, I focused. At home, I slept better. I stopped checking my account obsessively. When the final notice came, resolved, with conditions, I read it once and filed it away. Months later, at a family gathering I attended briefly, my mother spoke to me in a lower voice. My brother stayed in another room. Nothing was fixed. But nothing was pretend anymore, either. I left early, the night air cool against my face, and realized that asserting a boundary didn't have to be loud to be permanent. Sometimes it arrives as a knock at the door, measured and unmistakable, and everything after that is simply learning how to live with the quiet.